Hola, buenas tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, welcoming you to today's En Casa con la Plaza Cocina. En Casa con la Plaza, of course, is our virtual programming. We've been broadcasting live on Zoom, streaming to Facebook Live since April 22, 2020, from our home to yours during the pandemic, during the lockdown. Now that we're getting out of the pandemic, returning to some kind of normal, we will continue to bring you these beautiful demonstrations every Monday from our home to yours. So if you've joined us on Zoom, welcome. Use the comment section to let us know where you're viewing from. You could ask questions during the conversation, during the demonstration. You could also use the Q&A feature, and we'll be taking them throughout the demonstration. Those of you who have joined us on Facebook, welcome as well. Use the comment section, the comment feature there, the little box, to let us know where you're viewing from. And also, if you have any comments or questions, please do so. Like Chris Driscoll there, just let us know he's viewing from, or he or she, I'm sorry, from Whittier, California. Welcome, Chris. Let me see now. Before we get started, just a few announcements. La Plaza is open from Thursdays through Sundays, noon to 4 p.m. Go to our website, lapca.org, to make reservations, or you could take a chance and be waiting there on standby between 12 and 4. La Tienda gift is also as well, so bring cash, debit, or credit cards. In fact, I think it's just debit or credit cards, no cash at this time. Our exhibition, very newly installed, is a beautiful neon art mural called Only Light Can Do That. It's a neon art installation by Patrick Martinez. You can visit day or night. You don't have to enter the museum. It's glowing, some beautiful messages, social messages, day and night until September the 5th. And finally, this Saturday, La Plaza is supporting a movie that's coming out. A lot of you have been anticipating it. I know I have. It's called In the Heights. So this Saturday, June 12th at 1 p.m., La Plaza is hosting the special showing at the AMC Montebello. And I'll be posting the website in the comment section, in the chat section in a little while. Very reasonably priced to be one of the first to see In the Heights this Saturday, June 12th. That's it for me. Now I'm going to bring up Ximena Martin, our Director of Programming and Culinary Arts, who is the host of En Casa con la Plaza Cocina. Please join us, Ximena.
Good afternoon. Hi, Marana. How are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so excited about today's guest speaker. Today we had Marlene Aguilar, it says Xicana-P'urhepecha, born and raised in the Tongva territory in what is now known as East Los Angeles, with roots in the Intermountain region of the Michoacán, Mexico. As a community-based cocinera, she draws inspiration from her campesina family, but has also shaped her work in different food equity programs, specifically CSAs, community-supported agriculture. She's also the founder of the food project, I just learned this one, IREKUARHIKUA, which aims to offer seasonally inspired, affordable plant-based meals while highlighting the resilience of indigenous foods. Her project is currently offering meal prep service like comida corrida from fondas or cocinas economicas found throughout Mexico. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Marlene. Marlene, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for introducing me. And thanks for the invitation, right? I'm just really excited to share with folks.
So tell us a little bit what you're going to be doing today.
So today we'll be working, we'll be demonstrating step-by-step how to prepare Nixtamal, or the process of Nixtamalization. I have corn already set up here. We're going to show how to turn this dry maize into some lovely masa. And I have all the different processes or phases of that here. I'm also going to share just like a brief presentation of some interesting facts that you should know when thinking about cooking nixtamal.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got yourself started in cooking?
Well, I got started in cooking, actually working in food justice programs. My initial intent was to grow food in the same way that my relatives do in Michoacán. I'm first generation, and so I had the privilege to be able to visit Mexico during the summers. And so I got to see, you know, and experience that campesino lifestyle. And it wasn't until I was in the farms or in the greenhouses planting things that I realized there was abundance of food made available to me, or just happens to, it just happens, right? When you're in a food project, and I needed to start cooking more, was so much more involved, and I decided, okay, either I have to plant the food or cook the food, and I decided to full on dedicate myself to cooking, especially because of like a lot of the health disparities that I was seeing within my community, communities of color, that were experiencing, you know, just these really horrible like health situations from diet-related illnesses that could be preventable, right? And so it's like, okay, well, that can be prevented. Let's figure out ways to get people to, you know, to eat healthier, right? Make things more accessible. And so that's 10 years later, and I'm here.
That's wonderful. Well, please let us know some more stuff about how are you going to do your nixtamal today.
Okay, so the nixtamal is, I'm going to make this batch here. I'm really excited about using this particular blue corn because it was shipped and gifted to me by one of my mentors and elders, Clayton. He is the director of the traditional, let me see, TNAFA, Traditional Native American Farmers Association. And he sent it out. He sends me a bunch of things from time to time. And so I figured, okay, well, let me feature this today, right? I'm really excited about that. Also, in the back there, I'll be using my phone and tripod later, so we'll get closer to that area. But if you see, there's a molino here, and I'll be actually, it's a little loud. I'll be actually showing people how to grind the maize, the nixtamal, once it's ready, so that you get some really neat masa to make some smooth tortillas, and not some of the clumpy stuff I see sometimes on Instagram. No shade, but it's important that we do it right.
Now, the ancestors were ingenious how to figure out how to process corn to make it edible. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process?
Yes, so it's essentially nixtamal, right? And it's the process of cooking dry corn, like this one, in an alkaline solution. And so the solution is as simple as a water and an alkalizing substance, right? And so a lot of us nowadays use cal. I have cal here, right? And it's a slack lime, as it's called. It's calcium hydroxide. There you go. But back in the day, you know, when before cal was made available at the stores, people would use ash, right? And so that's also alkalizing. And they used a variety of different ash from different types of trees or wood. And essentially, if I should I share my presentation now or later?
Sure,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to show a little bit more a slide, the presentation or slide that I have here. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. Can you see it, Jimena?
Yes.
Okay, great. So to start, these slides here are from the Fundación Tortilla de Maíz Mexicana. I took one of their maíz courses, and they were so generous to share the presentation. And so I'm I'm using their slides, so I want to make sure I give them credit for that. And I've just kind of took different slides to make something short and sweet for y'all today, right? And so to start, I want to kind of dissect the word Nixtamal. Nixtamal is a Nahuatl word. It comes from the word neshli, which means ceniza. We talked about the ash and how maize was cooked in ash, in an ash solution. And tamali meaning masa de maize, okay? Oh, how do I, okay, there we go. And so this is essentially the process here. Okay, there we go. And so it's the process of selecting and cleaning your maize, right? Step number one. Right, and so that's what I have here in my bowl. You cook it lightly. You don't want it to not boil, like a hard boil, but just before it boils, right? And I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. You cook it along with water and cal, right? Approximately it's an hour. We'll get into the measurements later in another slide. Then after it's cooked for that much time, you let it soak overnight, preferably, or if not 8 to 14 hours. Because what you want is the maize to become softer and absorb all the nutrients and all that chemistry that happens within the process of nixtamal. It's just, you want to let it give it time, right? And then you rinse it. And then after you have that, you have what we have here, which is nixtamal. Can you see the picture?
No, we're still with the PowerPoint.
Okay, never mind. Well, I'll show you later. Okay. Let's see. And so what's next? Okay, so these are just the ingredients that you'll need. You need maize, you need water, and you need cal or ash, depending on what your preference is. Nowadays, what's more available is cal. You can find it at a Latino market. But if you have ash, it's definitely worth saving. The measurements for that I have, so if you're interested in doing that, let me know, hit me up later. But for now, we're gonna focus on cal, right? Something to keep in mind is that not all maize is built the same. And so then the nixtamal process needs to take this into account. There's variables, different factors, right? One of them being the type of maize that you use, right? There's hundreds of varieties of maize just alone in Mexico, right? Talking about maize criollo, maize nativo, native corns. They're split into 3 sections or types: the crystal-like, which is the hardest; the dent, which is a combination of crystal and just in between hardness. It's halfway between the hard and the super soft, which is the starchier one, harinoso, and it's a lot softer, which means you don't have to cook it too much and it's easier to grind. All these are used for different things, right? So here we have the different colors of maize, right? The white, blue, and the red being the most commonly used for human consumption. The other corn is what most animals, what is used for animal feed. And so this will, depending on, we talked about the type of maize that you have, will determine the amount of cal that you need. Generally, most often than not, people will have more access to dent corn, which is the medio, the medium hardness. And so you will need about 10 grams for 1 kilo of maize. And so the recipe I shared with Ximena, and I'm not sure how that's going to be shared with folks, but it's generally to convert this for folks to understand a little better. If you don't understand like kilograms and grams, is 1 pound of dry maize is you'll need about 1 tablespoon of cal, right? And so, but again, it really depends on the type of maize that you have. but generally the dense is the most popular. Now there is also the cristalino one, and that's where you'll need more, and the cooking time would probably be a little bit more. So just something to think of, keep in mind. Now this is the nixtamalización process when you make it with ash instead of cal. So you make sure you have clean ash, right? You sift it out. Then you mix it with water, and you just added the maize in there, and you let it cook. And it's essentially the same process. The only thing is that you don't let it soak for too long, because then my understanding is the color of the maize will change. But again, I haven't done this with ceniza yet, but I'm looking forward to at some point. Okay, and so I also wanted to talk about the nutritional benefits of nixtamal. There's just so many, and this is part of the reason why I wanted to share it. When Ximena invited me to do a cooking demonstration, I immediately thought of nixtamal. Why? Because it's a fundamental food processing technique that connects multiple regions throughout Mexico, North, Central, South, Central America, and I'd go as far as to say all the Americas, right? And unfortunately, the information of nixtamal, the knowledge, the how-to, and the nutritional benefits is something that is being lost, right? For a lot of us, those that migrate, right? Doing nixtamal in the States after migrating might be hard because of access of ingredients, tools that you need for making your masa. Sometimes, you don't have time because you're working so much. That's what we do out here. We work, work and work. But then also too, in my case, my mother didn't want to teach me nixtamal because it was something she saw as something of the past. It was backwards. And so living in a very modernized society, we didn't need that. She didn't think I needed that, right? So, but if I would have known, as a plant-based, having a plant-based diet, I would have known really that what types of foods, cultural appropriate foods that I could eat to maintain this healthy plant-based lifestyle, right? And so some of the nutritional benefits of maize are increased as a result of the alkaline process, right? Such as making amino acids available, like lysine and tryptophan. When combined with beans, they make a whole protein is created, right? And so, I think back of when the first time I went vegan and I announced it, came out to my family as vegan, they're like, what are you gonna eat, And if I would have known, well, nixtamal, tortillas and beans, that makes a whole protein. I wish I would have had that information so I could have, just been a little bit more confident, right? And to take on this lifestyle, but then also reassure my family, right? Oh, okay, we've been eating that for generations. All right.
Yeah, Marlene, historically as well, great civilizations were based on that basic diet of tortillas, squash, and beans. So, a bigger picture like that great societies were built on that.
Exactly. And it also increases availability of calcium. So the cal is a actual, it's a family of calcium hydroxide. I'm not a scientist, so I'm just not sure exactly how to talk about these things, but the cal is absorbed, right, when it's soaking overnight after you cook it, and it introduces calcium into the maize, right? As well as potassium, and in particular other vitamins, but in particular vitamin B3, which helps our nervous system, repairs our DNA, our circulatory system, and it keeps our skin healthy. And I think that's important for all those folks that are, concerned about acne, right? Eat your nixtamal tortillas, that's what you need. And it's also high in insoluble fiber, which helps our colon health. So, a lot of a lot of foods do not have the insoluble fiber, and so it's harder for us to have bowel movements. And when that happens, we get intoxicated, right? So we have those things in our bodies, and so eating nixtamal tortilla will help you with all of that, right? And so not all tortillas are the same, right? We have the tortilla nixtamal, right, what we're talking about, but we also have highly processed tortillas, right? And so there has been a decline in the quality of tortillas, right? This is what the harina de maíz, the industrial flour maíz, harina de maíz that we see available at the stores like Maseca and I don't know, other brands. That's the most common. But this is essentially what happens. They take the grano de maíz, they use poor varieties, right? They lack protein and, you know, healthy oils. They then do the nixtamal process, they grind it and then dehydrate it, but they don't let it sit overnight, right? And so even though some of the packages say, oh, harina nixtamalizada, they're not letting it, giving you the space for that magic to happen, right? And then they also extract all these different fibers to make it more appealing, right? To make it white or lighter. And then, I mean, they keep making this worse and worse, right? They add conservatives, like chemically engineered conservatives. They also add gums and things to make the texture softer. And the result is a reduction of nutrients, less fiber, less calcium. You have chemicals in your tortilla, and it's just the flavor and the texture is just not the same, right?
And once you've had a good tortilla, you can't go back, because you can have the most excellent al pastor, carnitas, lo que sea, but then if the tortilla is not there,
yes,
it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Doesn't. And I grew up eating those nixtamal tortillas, right? And so after a while, I realized, oh, this is what's happening. This is the difference, because out here in the United States, we had access to, you know, some of the more industrialized, the processed tortillas, and it was just, it wasn't the same. And I think that's why I'm so passionate now to share this with all of you, because everybody should have a good, decent tortilla, and you should be able to make it. Let's see. Okay, and then so I'll share a little bit about this. In 2019, I ended up going to a forum hosted by Alianza de Nuestra Cultura. And it was basically different people within the maíz tortilla chain. Yo fui de metiche. I just wanted to go check it out. I'm not part of the maíz tortilla chain. I am a cocinera, but I was just really interested to just see the state of our tortilla, right? And what they had to share. And to my surprise, a lot of, after that day, people talked about how it was really important to educate people on nixtamal, because some people didn't know what it was, or didn't know the difference between nixtamal tortilla and una de harina de maíz, right? Like the ones we just talked about. And so to me, I was shocked. I could not believe it. I'm like, in Mexico, this is happening? Like, this is the birthplace of maíz. How can this be so, right? And unfortunately, it's these corporations are taking over our cultural foods, and, you know, and so I just wanted to share with y'all that Fundación Tortilla de Maíz Mexicana, they're doing things. There's an Alianza por Nuestra Tortilla, policy makers, all kinds of people connected are working to keep the integrity of the tortilla. Also, they're working on policy to get labels, right, on tortillas, regulate additives, the use of color dye, and, you know, just more information to the consumidor. So I'll stop there with my share. You know, oh, and then this is something else that I wanted to share. Listo para ir para las tortillas a Pujul. I'll share that later, but and why that's funny, but I want to stop sharing. How do I stop sharing? Let's see. The little bar doesn't come up. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Stop sharing. Okay. So can you see me now?
Yes, and I have a question. I don't know, like it's a commentary. One of our viewers, DG, says, my toddler always disliked tortillas until I started making her homemade tortillas with maíz nixtamalizado. She will eat them just with salt. It has made a huge difference. So it's really interesting. We start with our youth to start asking and requesting, you know, to eating better.
Definitely.
And then before we get going, I just want to say there's a couple people saying hello. Chris Driscoll from Whittier, Chispa Hills, Apple Valley, Diana Hispe from Covina, Temple City, and Arcadia. And then DG says, love Foundation de Tortilla de Maíz Mexicana.
Yes, love them too for sharing the resources so we could continue and try to encourage people to continue the practice, right? And so I now want to move into the step-by-step demo. I'm going to join. I'm going to take maybe just like 1 minute to switch to my tripod so we could be a little bit more mobile, and yeah, we'll get to it. Okay, so can you see me now?
We got to turn you around.
Okay, all right. There we go. Yeah.
Eso. There you go. I can see you now.
Thank you so much. I had to log off the computer just so that we wouldn't have that echo. Okay, so just get started. All right, so we're gonna need the maíz, right? We're gonna pour it in our olla, right? We're gonna take about, let's see. We're gonna take, like I mentioned, a tablespoon of cal. It was a little bit more than a pound, so I'm gonna add a little bit more. Right, this is my first time using this corn, so I'll have an idea of, you know, it doesn't seem that hard, right, based on what I shared in the presentation. I'm gonna add some water, enough water to cover it about 1 inch or so, cover it and have 1 inch of water still above it. So let's see, take my spoon. So I think that's enough water. If you don't, just all you have to really worry about is that the water doesn't consume while it's heating up, right? So just make sure it has enough water, and then 2, it has enough water to soak. So I think this is fine. One of the tricks that my mom taught me, right, was to like, if you're not sure, because with mothers, it's always really hard to get like a solid like measurement, right? So she said, if you want, you could taste the water, the cal water, and put it up to your tongue. And if it's like, if you feel like the same way you feel with pineapples, the acidity of pineapples, I don't know what that term is, but right when you eat a lot of pineapple, your tongue feels like, oh, like it's drying out. Then that's a good indication. So I didn't necessarily feel that, so I'm gonna add a little bit more because I think I added a little bit too much. Okay, but then also another indicator is the color of the water. So you want it to be opaque, you know, so you can't necessarily see through it. And basically that's all you do, and you turn it on. You turn it on into a medium high for now, and you just have to kind of keep an eye on it, right? So after 20 minutes, you'll reduce the heat because again, we don't want it to boil excessively, right? Because then what happens is like it becomes too gooey, right? So you don't want it to be gooey. You want it to be hard enough so that it's easier to grind and you don't just have a mush, right? Okay. And so we're gonna let that, you wanna cook it for about 40 minutes to an hour. It depends. We're not gonna wait, right? I've already cooked the nixtamal and have some ready here for you. Okay. So here you'll see what nixtamal looks like after it's been cooked, right? And so what we want is to make sure that this little film, like this little thin skin, let me see, comes off. Let me see, it's another one. Do you see that thin, like little skin? A little hard to, but yes, it's like you just scratch it, the kernel, and it'll just come off. At this point, I feel with like all the moving around, it's kind of hard because all that film has already come off, right? But so what you do is you rub it together like so and try to get that film to come out, and then you're going to rinse it until the water is not muddy like this, but more transparent so you could see through it. For things like tortillas, you don't want to overwash it because that same like little film, little skin is going to help you bind, right? The masa bind. Versus if you were making like an atole, can you see the little film out there? See it, it's super tiny, but an atole or something that requires just some really like a fine grind, then you do definitely want to grind it well, okay? So then after you wash it, you'll have this, right? Notice it's clean, it's washed, and it's ready to be molido. Okay, so we're gonna go over to the molino. Here we have the molino. It's ready. Have my batea, right? These are perfect because they're shallow enough, right? And wide to catch the masa. So give me a second. Let's see, can you see it there? Yeah,
Perfect.
Looks good?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, and so you're gonna add the maize into this boveda funnel, the maize, and you just wanna make sure it's tight enough, but not too tight that it won't grind. So this is gonna make a lot of noise. So just, just hang in there. Whoops. Okay. There we go. I'm just gonna finish this real quick and then we'll continue to the next phase. And so sometimes what would happen is that you're gonna have to push the maize down. You wanna put your fingers in like this, but not all the way down because then you'll get your fingers stuck. But sometimes you'll need to push it down to feed it into the little worm there that moves it to the grinder. You could use a spoon or or something else. If you don't feel too confident to use your fingers, I use my fingers because I've ground a lot of my eggs. So to have a little bit more. And that's it. Okay. So you end up with this like this coarse, like almost like flour, I would say, right? And I wish you could smell this. This smells heavenly. And this is what you would use. You would stop here if you were making tamales. Yeah, mostly tamales. But
So that's that's a coarser ground. Then you would have to do it again if you want to make tortillas.
Yes, and I'll show you how to do that next. But if you want to make tamales, you could just leave it like this. And because, you know, a lot of us want fluffy tamales, and so this makes it a little bit less compacted, and so then you're able to have more air bubbles, right?
Yeah.
In your tamal. Yeah.
Real quick, Lisa Marie Ruiz says great information. She's watching us all the way from Oxnard, and also DG says gorgeous. Is that platter from Michoacán?
Yes, 100% Michoacán over here. And so yes, this is where you would stop if you're making tamales. Now, if you're gonna make tortillas, this is where you take off this part of the molino, right? And then you take your ground. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna get water. You take your ground up nixtamal, and then you pour a little bit of water inside. Just a little bit, because what you want to do is you want to make a dough, right? To be able to pass it again in the molino, because it's just easier versus trying to get like scoop up all these like the harina, almost like the coarse harina, right? So this is how my mother taught me, right? So you make a bolita, and you'll see that like even though you get a masa, and technically you'd be able to make a tortilla with this, you'll see that the texture is still really coarse. You know, probably I could add a little bit more water, but I don't want to get too mushy because then it gets a little wild to process, right? So then you make a little ball. Of course, we're just making a little bit right now. You'd end up with like a big different bolas de masa, and then you put it in here. Let's see, can you see it? Yeah, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. And then you push it through. Oh, but before you do that, you want to make sure that you tighten the molino just a little bit more so that you get a finer grind, okay? So then the way that you want to adjust the grind is here, this main one that you have here. Usually this is used to tighten, secure the tightness of this one. So you want to loosen this little palomita up so that you could tighten this one. And then you tighten this one so that it's pretty secure on there. And you just want to tighten it enough so that it's tighter than your first pass through, but not too hard where you can move the handle, okay? And here, you will definitely need to push with your fingers, right? And again, just be careful, or with a spoon, so that you could feed it through to the worm. Okay? Notice I'm not going as fast anymore because it's a little harder. And like the same way you would be using a food processor, you kind of have to scoop the sides and feed it in, stop a little bit. And that's pretty much it. Okay, I'm going to stop here. And so now you end up with a finer masa. You'd be able to notice it more in person. This is where you either want to adjust for water just a little bit more. And this is the kind of class I enjoy doing more in person because, as I mentioned earlier to Ximena, but when you're working with masa, it's like something that you definitely have to feel to know when you're done, right? Let's see. So here it's a little bit more smoother, right? And then I'd add more water to then make tortillas. Okay.
Now, do you need to rest the masa?
Rest
or just
it,
like that's like how you're doing right now? Add a little water and then just form the balls and then you press them and that's it. They don't need to sit for a little bit.
No, they don't need to sit. But I think it's what really takes experience is figuring out the water ratio, because then it's if you don't want to have too soft of a masa where like your tortilla is coming apart, you can't even take it off the press, right? But you don't want it too dense because then it's not gonna like press really nicely, right? So it still needs water, but es cuando y también hace falta como amasarla. Now, if you had a metate, right, this is where you do like the final pass and you grind it even more and it's even softer, right?
Well, that's good to know for class time, because once La Cocina opens up, we'll definitely bring you back so people can actually see, taste, smell the beautiful process in Nixtamal, and then be able to have our own metate there and with the grinder so people can get the full effect.
Yes. And so essentially that's it. I want to show you what so because I was grinding, it kind of started boiling a little bit. So I'm going to turn it down just a little bit so that it doesn't get too hard of a boil, right? And let's see, adjust maybe a little bit more. Have it like on 4. We have the numbers. But yeah, definitely not a rolling boil. Something to think about. But yes, it's that simple, right? The only thing that I guess requires a lot of effort is the actual grinding, right? I mean, you just saw me grind like a scoopful. So it's like, oh, okay, I could do that, right? But I think a lot of people are turned off by that alone. But one thing that I like to share with people is that, it's a good way to like exercise, right? And so oftentimes in doing a lot of like nutrition, promotora work, a lot of the things that would come up is like, oh, pues no comas tortilla, don't eat tortilla because it makes you fat. And it's like, well, our tortilla is high in nutrition and we've been eating it for thousands of years. I think the issue is more your lack of physical movement, right? And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're not growing our own food, right? We're not processing our own foods, right? And so I like to, I don't cook nixtamal every morning and make my tortillas every day. No, I don't do that. But I do from time to time like doing it because sometimes I am sedentary and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna grind it so that I could get a little workout in, like upper workout, and not feel so guilty, right? Because it's like the calories in, it has to be the calories out. If not, then, we're gonna, gain weight, right? Also too, for tamal season, I grind my corn to make my tamales from nixtamal, and I do it because I feel a little less guilty eating tamales, right? Because so you can never just eat one, right?
Right.
So that's something I like to encourage people to do. Just to wrap up, I think it's really important, one, to learn this, to practice it, not only as our cultural inheritance, right, and for future generations to know. It's also a way to take our power back, all these corporations are making us sick with foods that they label or they market as good for us. And so this is, I feel like, a way to take it back. And then also, I think it's also a great thing to know and just to have like molino, and maybe like a bag of like 25 to 50 pounds of maize in case things happen, like an emergency, in case like what we saw during COVID, where, we'd go to the market and shelves were, just empty right at the beginning. People were freaking out, and so it's good to, to have these things, because all you really need is cal, water, and fire, right? And a molino. And so in case of emergency where the lights is off, or, something happens, right? You are at least are able to make some tortillas to get you through, right? Whatever is happening. And so I feel like that's what our ancestors did through trying times, and so it's something that we shouldn't let go just because things are just so much more easy to access now,
Marlene, I have a couple questions for you. People are asking,
Okay.
where can we get a molino?
Okay, so I got my molino in downtown LA. I know, I don't know if all the people here are watching from Southern California, but I got it in downtown LA. And I'll tell you more or less the streets. It's around 4th Street in Los Angeles, right? In that area where they sell those bongs and stuff like that. You'll see where they sell like the bongs and the pipes and all that stuff, but then you'll see other tiendas or locales that sell like cooking equipment, where they sell all the different like griddles that you see taqueros have. Like, look for that kind of stuff, and then that's where I don't know exactly like the street and the address, but generally those tiendas will have molinos for affordable, right? And then you could also order it on Amazon. I've seen, yeah.
I've seen that there too, and also in the Piñata district. Again,
Oh, yeah.
there's a bunch of shops where you can buy the comales and spoons and stuff like that. But someone's asking where is the best place to buy corn and cal. If I want to do it tomorrow, I go down to the Piñata district or the downtown. I get my molino. I'm ready. How do I get my corn and cal?
In those same places, especially if you go to the Piñata district, they sell a lot of things like in granel, like in bulk, from chiles to, grains, and they will have some maize there. That's one place. If you want to make another stop and you want more variety, the variety in the Piñata district will probably be a little bit more limited. I'm not sure. I order my stuff online, but you can also get it at Mercadito, right? Mercadito de ICLA. I grew up just around the corner from there. So when I first started doing nixtamal, that's where I went. And you can find cal there too.
Ana Rivera is asking, what is the translation of cal into English?
Cal is known as slack lime, or the more scientific name is calcium hydroxide.
And then I have DG saying, I feel like the process is meditative and as engage our souls and our physical hunger decreases. And she agrees about taking our power back.
Yes. If I still have time, I'd like to share that I had to beg my mother to teach me how to make nixtamal. because I was becoming aware of just the decolonial foods, how important it was as migrants, descendants of migrants, to eat like our ancestral foods to stay healthier instead of seeing health issues happen as a result of acculturating and eating the standard American diet, right? And she didn't want to. And I couldn't understand. She's like, no, para qué? Why do you want to do that? Like, you're not going to do that. You know, it didn't make sense to her. I had to go out and get the molino, the maíz, and the cal, show up to her house and be like, okay, I have everything. I'm serious. Please teach me. And that's when she taught me, right? And so, you know, and it was only after that, and in those moments where, you know, we team up, when we have a lot of nixtamal to grind, we'll take turns, you know, and it's pretty fun to do with family, especially with your elders, because it is in those moments and in that space that these stories come up for them, you know, that otherwise would not. You know, I remember I would sit down with my family and be like, okay, so tell me stories of like, you know, back home and things you did, and they couldn't remember anything. But as soon as they get in contact, they have maíz and they're in the element, like all these stories come up. And it's quite magical. It's as if like our DNA is activated. And, you know, because of Nixtamal and learning, I learned so many more stories about my grandparents that otherwise I would have known. So it is pretty magical. I recommend that you do it. If your elders don't know or they don't want to teach you, do it, take it to them, and then that might open the floodgates.
Well, but talk about taking back our power. I know you have beautiful food service. I got IREKUARHIKUA. Can you tell us more about your services, how we can find you, and how we can eat your beautiful food?
Okay, thank you. So IREKUARHIKUA is my food project. It is a mouthful. It's a P'urhepecha word, and it translates to a way of life. And so in addition to cooking, I'm also a gardener now. I took that back, made peace with that, and also a seed keeper. And so I think it's a perfect name to capture and weave all those interests that I have, right? And so currently I offer a meal prep service. It's plant-based. It's essentially an order of 3 meals, all very seasonal. And you could find me at Instagram, IREKUARHIKUA. You could see it on the flyer, right? I know it's a little hard to try to spell out. But yeah, you'll be able to find me. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Abelardo. I appreciate you. Yeah, and so it's a bi-weekly service. So, you know, I'm getting ready to cook this next week. I'll be posting the menu Thursday. So if you're interested, if you have a busy week coming up next week, you know, check it out.
Marlene, mil gracias. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and bringing it forward. I look forward to working with you with La Cocina again to show this amazing process and educate our youth and kind of bring back those memories and create those conversations as we process Nixtamal into beautiful tortillas, tamales, gorditas, all the 1,000,001 things that could be made with Masa. Again, muchísimas gracias. You take care. I look forward to connecting with you later in the year. Éxitos, adelante, y ahora le paso a mi compañero Abelardo. Mil gracias.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Just one question from me. Who'll be enjoying the masa and what will you be making with it today?
Oh, so I'll be making, oh wait, am I on?
Yeah, you were on.
Oh,
there she is.
There you go.
Oh, sorry, can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be making gorditas. I harvested some nopales, tomatoes, onion from my garden, and also some quelites. So I'll be making a little stir fry, right, for what I was able to harvest and stuffing in a gordita. I prefer gorditas because I don't need a press and it's easy to like just put on the comal.
And who'll be enjoying them?
Oh, me and my partner, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Marlene. Thank you so much, Ximena. This was a great demo. We some great comments, and I'm sure we do have your recipe that you sent, and we'll be sending it to our Zoom viewers, and we'll be posting it on our Facebook page as well. So thank you for that. Let me see. You could just to finish off, we will be doing our cooking demonstration next week as well. And who do we have? We have Tirsa Farah from Tirsa's Mexican Cafe. She'll be doing a chicken enchilada pie. So that's at 3 o'clock next Monday, June 14th on Zoom and Facebook Live. Thank you so much. Also later on this week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock on En Casa con la Plaza, Learning from Lockdown with Anthony Islas. These are 3 educators, Anthony Islas, who teaches at Southeast High School, Holly Lynn Purser, also known as Chispa Hills, one of our faithful viewers here on En Casa con la Plaza Cocina. She will be joining us as well on Wednesday, June 9th, and a good friend of La Plaza, Denise Sandoval, a professor of Chicano Studies at Cal State Northridge, who will be talking to us and sharing their experiences of how they were able to transition from in-person learning and teaching to doing it all online. And then finally on Friday of this week, June 11th, we have Olmeca, a hip hop artist, producer, activist, and scholar who's being considered a 21st century shaman, and he'll be discussing music, how it's combined with social commentary and community efforts, how it intersects various identities and demographics. So that'll be this Friday. And as I said, on Saturday will be La Plaza, a select group of people who need to buy tickets can join us to watch the first weekend of In the Heights. Lin-Manuel Miranda, of course, is the creator of the Broadway play, directed by John Chu. I've included the link there if you want to help support La Plaza and have a good time with a bunch of great people as well. So that's it for that. Thank you for joining us, Abril Magaña, DG, Marlene. Thank you for the great class and chat. I love hearing your experience and practice, and so did I, and so did all of you. And that's why we have En Casa con la Plaza Cocina. So we'll see you soon. Bye-bye, Jimena. Bye-bye, Marlene.
Bye, adios, gracias.